Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Pizza Motorcast. Yo, it's Dave. I got a special guest, Top Alcohol Funny Car, Dragster Driver, Greg Hunter. How you doing, Greg?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Good. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you.
So Greg, how did you begin your drag race career? What got you into drag racing in the first place?
Well, that's started out. I was kind of always around engines and blown alcohol stuff with my dad being in tractor pulling, and I always really loved the blown alcohol stuff. And I never really was around the drag racing stuff right away. Like when I was young, there was drag racing in our town, Medicine Hat, where I grew up, and always enjoyed watching. But I always was more interested in the blown alcohol stuff, and I never really saw it in our hometown and stuff. It was the bracket racing, so I wasn't as interested in that as I was blown alcohol stuff. So in 1994, I took a trip to the first NHRA race I ever been to in Pomona, the World Finals, and it just blew me away when I saw Top Fuel and I saw Top Alcohol. I just it changed my life pretty much, and just basically wanted to get into. Immediately when I got home from that event, I wanted to get into drag racing, and at the time I had a '84 Mustang that I had kind of hopped up a little bit, nothing crazy, but I roared around on the street with it, and basically I decided to take that to the track and race it, and that was really how I got started. Started in the street class with that one in the Medicine Hat.
So what year did you start racing on the drag strip?
That would have been 95.
So what was the first vehicle you drag raced in?
It was a '84 Mustang, and it had I'd done a little bit to it. I had I had done the heads and put headers on it and put 410 gears in it and kept the same transmission in it. And I think I updated the clutch and ran it for a year, and the next year after that, I got into like a super comp style dragster, and then the year after that, I had there was a neighbor to my dad's shop where I worked who was building race cars. His name was Ian Galately, and he had a nostalgia funny car, and so that would have been, I think, 96 or 97. I got into that. I drove that car for him, and it was a neat car. It had a 392 Hemi, and there was like a match race circuit in Alberta at the time, and we did that for 2 years. And after that, I decided to get into. I wanted to go Top Alcohol the whole time along, and purchased my own car. And it took a little bit to get that car running. It's a big step from a 750 type nostalgia funny car to a Top Alcohol car, for sure.
Now, did you have any success with any of these other cars?
With I don't think I actually ever I didn't win a race yet. I made it to the finals a few times with my Mustang, and I don't think I won with the super comp style dragster. I did, fairly well. It ran good and learned how to race, actually, because I had never really, raced aside from the Mustang. So I was kind of learning how to race at the time too, and learning how to drive. And then in the nostalgia car, we did okay for what we had. I mean, we were a little underpowered with an old 392, so it was tough to compete in the class that we were in. But we ran good, very respectably for what we had. That's for sure. And then basically when I got into the Top Alcohol car, my own car, it it was challenging. I was trying to license, and then we were also trying to get we had a new combination. We were running a Ford deal. We were trying to run. It's like it's a Boss 429, the aluminum version of the Boss 429, and we were trying to run that. So we were also trying to get it to run good at the same time as license, and it was becoming challenging. So, especially in Canada, when you don't have you've got a small window of when you can run. So then when I was having challenges for that, I decided to go to Frank Hawley's drag racing school, and that was a real eye opener as well. You know, really learned how to drive and how to read the computer and what you're looking for. And Frank Hawley was an amazing instructor. And actually, when I went there at that time, Jack Beckman was working for Frank at the same time too. So I learned a little bit from him as well.
Now, the dragster you currently drive, Kevin Kenshaw owns that one?
Yes. Yeah.
So how did you end up driving for Kevin?
So when I went after with my funny car deal that I had, I'm not sure if you're aware, NHRA changed the rule, and the Ford engine was basically outlawed. And from then I kind of just had my car, it wasn't really anywhere to run with it. So I actually was asked by Kenny Gilmore to drive. He has Top Alcohol Dragster. And so I was asked to drive that dragster. So that's where I got my dragster experience. And then from there I went back into funny car in the Sinoil funny car. And Jeff Goodwin asked me to drive that one when Kenny's car, it was kind of at the end of the 2013 season. It was a little bit up in the air of what was going to happen with the team at that time. So I decided to move over, or I was asked, I got the opportunity by Jeff Goodwin to drive the Sinoil car, and did that for 3 years. And we actually did pretty well. We were doing really good towards the end of that, and then around that time is when I met Kevin, and he's had a few other drivers in the car, and after the Sinoil car, the Sinoil crash of the oil prices is kind of what hurt that sponsorship. So I was kind of freelancing, I guess, for a little bit in a couple of years. The next couple of years, I got to drive Annie Whiteley's car a couple times in 2017, which was a great experience and a great opportunity. And then after that, we didn't really have a car to drive, and then Gino Tumbarello asked me to drive his dragster in 2018. And I drove that car a couple times, and then Gino and Kevin are really good friends, so I've kind of got to know Kevin a lot more through Gino. And then Gino wasn't sure what that they weren't sure what they were doing with their car at the time, and then Kevin asked me to drive his. Or actually, I think Gino called me and said, "Give Kevin a call. He's looking for somebody to drive." So there was a couple times when we got a chance to drive Kevin's car, and then last year, early in the year, we went and tested, and then we didn't run a whole bunch, but we were definitely trying to get the car to where we wanted it to be, and probably need some more runs, but we're gonna shoot for that this year, I think.
So what's the fastest pass you made in Kevin's car?
I think the best that we ran in Kevin's car was like a 5:42 or something like that. So definitely not where we wanted to be, but we have it. Definitely when we were in Vegas, we were having some issues with clutch problems and stuff like that. But the motor's definitely healthy, and just need to get it all figured out and get the tune-up in place. And definitely the car's capable of running the 20. So we're excited about that opportunity.
So now later in the future, you're looking to build another Top Alcohol funny car team?
We had actually had some sponsorship talks where we were actually close to getting our own alcohol funny car team and putting that together. Obviously, the deal didn't come through, so but we're still in talks with the same sponsor. I mean, they're in the oil and gas industry, so it's basically that industry is definitely coming back. So we're always optimistic that the sponsorship is going to come through and we're going to be able to put a team together. Doesn't necessarily mean that we'll just jump from Kevin's car into an alcohol funny car. We might bring the sponsorship right into Kevin's car as well, is what we're thinking of now.
So
but we've always been, we started out kind of in funny car, and it's kind of our roots. So that's kind of what we would lean towards if we had to choose, I guess.
So currently, you still have a funny car at home?
Yeah, we've got the car that I purchased. It actually was a Gasparelli car, the Victory chassis. It's a little bit outdated now, so we still have that car. We're not sure what we're doing with it yet. We've thought about putting an altered body on it and running it in top dragster, but there's a lot of work to do to convert it over. The other alternative is that we can match race it around, just play around with it. So we still have it. We're just not sure what we're going to do with it yet.
Well, you can always go to a couple of funny car chaos events.
Yeah, and that's the other. There is a good venue for match racing where we could bring it out and have some fun with it.
So that's a good thing with funny car chaos. You can bring whatever car you want, as long as there's a funny car body on it.
Right. Yeah, we still have the funny car body that we purchased from Walt Austin. Well, actually, it was from Randy Parker, but it was a former, when Walt Austin was going to get back into alcohol funny car. It was the body that he had, and Randy Parker had it, and we bought it from him, and he did some nice work to the chassis to sort of update it at that time. That was almost 10 years ago when we did that, so still a little outdated, but it's definitely a decent car, and it would be fun to bring it out again.
So now, what drag racers were your biggest inspirations?
Oh wow! So I would say, as a kid, I watched it, religiously, from the time, in probably the late 70s, early 80s. I continuously watched it on TV. So at that time, I was a fan of Big Daddy Don Garlits, Kenny Bernstein, John Force, obviously. And then for inspirations, I think closer to home, I think I would have to say, obviously, my dad was inspiration, because he was in drag racing before he went into tractor pulling. And then Les Davenport was somebody who was an influence and definitely an inspiration. I always admired everything that he did. My dad ran the tractor pull engine on the dyno, and Les did the fuel system and all that kind of stuff. And he had Sean Brown working for him, who I met when I went to I guess I met him a few times before, and then he was there when we went to Pomona the first time. And then, our neighbor that was neighbor to my dad's shop where I worked, Ian Galately, was definitely somebody who was an influence on me as well.
So now, Greg, what was the experience like for you the first time ever going down a drag strip?
That was amazing. It was something that changed my life as well. Where I started to get, the first race was difficult because the car that I was the Mustang I had was definitely not set up for drag racing. So the first weekend, first round, I put a number on it and revved it up and dropped the clutch, and the car didn't move. I blew the rear end out of it. But as I got the car straightened out, worked on it, got it straightened out, was able to make, consistent runs. I'll never forget the time when I was going out the top end, had pushing the gas pedal, trying to push it through the floorboards, just going as fast as it can. And I remember shutting it off and just feeling like, man, that was just absolutely amazing. And the other thing I thought about it is, it's like, I'm allowed to do this. You're driving it around on the street, you're kind of looking over your shoulder all the time if you get after it. But there it was encouraged.
Yeah.
It was absolutely amazing.
Now, what was the experience like for the first time ever driving a top alcohol car down the track?
Well, that was intense. The first time in my car, I mean, it was, I didn't really do that, got the car off the starting line, but I mean, I didn't really do much. It was intimidating and a bit like, you're so nervous and almost thinking too much about everything you're doing. And so I made a few runs in that car, but it was never really that great. And when I went to Frank Hawley's, I'll never forget that, because I kind of had the attitude like the car will be a bit soft and it should be easy. And when I got there the first time I launched that car, it really left the starting line hard. I mean, it was set up. That's the way the car was set up, and it kind of surprised me a bit. And then I was like, wow, that is amazing.
Now, what's the fastest pass you made in a funny car?
Fastest pass I've made in a funny car was in Annie Whiteley's car, and I ran a 547, and it went. And the fastest mile an hour I had was 272 in that car.
Now, what track was that at?
It was I guess that would be two separate. The quickest ET was in Arizona, in Phoenix, and then that mile an hour pass was in Woodburn.
Now, when you go drag racing, how many crew members you bring out?
We usually have, depending on which car it is, but with the Cinnamon car, we usually had probably 5 or 6 guys. Kevin's car is a little bit lighter. We've got about usually 3 or 4, and with obviously Annie's team, they've got a pretty solid crew. There's probably 5 or 6 there, I think. But Kevin's car now we run a little bit tighter, but we have a lot of fun. It's a great group of guys, and we all get along, and it's actually we're really having fun. And then Gino Tumbarello has a couple of his crew guys come along if he's not running his car, and it's really good times.
Now, when you're out there on the track, do you have any pre-race rituals or superstitions when you're out there?
It's more when I'm getting dressed, because it kind of goes back to my old hockey days, because when I played hockey, I had certain things I did. I was a little more superstitious when I was playing hockey than I am with racing, but it's more when I'm putting my gear on, how I go about it, left shoe, right shoe, left boot, right boot, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then before I get in the car, I have my wife Stacy help me get dressed. We have a little ritual that we do before I get in the car. As she puts my gloves on, it has to be certain order. Sometimes we mix it up a little bit, but kind of stick to the same routine.
Yeah. So for for Cantrell's car, do you have? Is there any sponsorship?
couple. I think he has a couple from his own business, and then we have one of my businesses called Exact Air has sponsored a little bit, and we're trying to obviously build those relationships up a bit right now. And then we have one on the horizon that we're hoping might step up in 2020.
All right, for you, what goes into preparation to get ready for a weekend of drag racing?
So what I try and do is I've always tried to be in good physical condition, and then also have my mental focus on the race, and on the try and one thing I learned from Frank Hawley, and I use it every day, or especially as it gets closer to a race, is visualization. And I try and visualize the whole weekend as it goes, and as I'm working out, like as it leads up to the day, I watch a lot of drag racing, past races and stuff like that, and try and get my weight down as low as I can before the race. And it's one of those things where they weigh the car after every time it runs, and when the car gains weight, and they go, "We never changed anything. What are you doing?" So you're always a little bit sensitive of the weight. So I try and stay fit, and also mentally fit as well.
Now, do you have any favorite tracks to race on?
I would say my all-time favorite track is Pomona, and I think partly because it's California. It's kind of the birthplace of the sport, and that's the first race I ever saw, and it just has that amazing vibe when you're there. I absolutely love Pomona, and Vegas almost feels like a hometown track, because we rerun there so much, or I have run there so much. It was the first place that I actually raced my own car at my first division race that I ever went to was Vegas. So I have a soft spot for Vegas as well. And it's a fun. I mean, it's just an awesome race to go to, right?
Now, have you ever ran 8th Mile?
Yeah, when I started out, Medicine Hat was an 8th Mile track when I first started. So we ran 8th Mile for, I can't remember exactly what year they changed it to quarter mile, but I ran 8th Mile for probably, I'd say, at least 3 or 4 years in Medicine Hat when we ran there.
So you have a preference between quarter mile and 8th Mile?
Quarter mile for sure.
Now, where do you get all your fire safety equipment from, Greg?
Where do I get my safety equipment from?
Yeah, where do you order it from?
I get my fire suits from Dennis Taylor, and then my boots and shoes, all that kind of stuff I get from Taylor, and I have an impact helmet, and I'm trying to think what my gloves are. Got Simpson gloves, I think. I don't remember. But anyways, yeah, my main supplier would be Dennis Taylor, is who I look for safety stuff.
So now, what would you consider to be some of the milestones that you reached in your drag racing career so far?
Well, I think the one of the milestones that I was really set on was a 5-second pass, which I got in. The first one I did was in Kenny Gilmore's dragster. I went 5:50 and at 2:50, I think, something like that. And then, obviously the next one was a round win, and I got that in Kenny Gilmore's dragster. And then an event win, which I did we got that in the Cineral car. I won 2 in the Cineral car, 2 division races, both of them in Mission, BC. And then I actually won a division race in Annie Whiteley's car in Woodburn. all of those, I think all of those races to win was, euphoric. And the next one obviously is a national event win, which would be even more than euphoric if there is such a thing.
Now, throughout your drag racing career, have you had any accidents or close calls?
I haven't. I've gone off the end of the track a couple times. Parachute failure, and I haven't had any accidents where it's crashed into the wall or anything like that. I've definitely been close. Especially funny cars they're a little. It can be a handful sometimes. And you learn. Sometimes you have your leg in a little bit long, and you go, "Ooh, that could have been bad." But I haven't definitely been lucky. I haven't scraped the wall or anything like that. Had a fire in a dragster one time, which was a good. It was pretty good fire. Got my hand burnt, and other than that, no, haven't had any major events.
Well, knock on wood, Greg, you won't have any accidents.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, now, outside of the sport of drag racing, do you have any other hobbies?
I still like to play hockey. Not quite as smooth as I was when I was younger, but still enjoy getting out and skating and then mainly my kids' stuff that they do. My daughter's into acting and really enjoy watching her do that. And my boy's playing hockey now at a pretty decent level, so definitely enjoy watching him play hockey. And then also I do the play-by-play for his games, so that's kind of a bit of a hobby, I guess.
So how many kids you got? Two?
2 kids. We have a boy who is Hayden, who's 12, and our daughter Addison is 16.
Now, how they feel about drag racing?
They love it. They love it as well. They kind of wanted. They would like. Obviously they've asked about junior dragster and stuff like that, but it's kind of a little bit difficult with their other sports and with my work and stuff like that. It's been kind of difficult to get them into that, but we're definitely looking at getting them into racing, probably locally here at Bandamere, in kind of like the street class type thing.
Right, that's cool.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun for us as well.
Now, throughout your drag racing career, have you won many, plaques or trophies, anything like that?
Yeah, when I was in Medicine Hat in the dragster, I won Rookie of the Year in that year. So that was definitely a great honor. And won a few trophies from runner-ups and through that part of my career. And I think we won Best Appearing Car a couple times. In Medicine Hat we did, and then I think we might have won it at another event. I think we won a Best Appearing Car. So that was, take a lot of pride in that, because you spend a lot of time working on these cars and trying to make them nice, and when you get acknowledged for it, it feels good.
Now, Greg, if you were able to do time traveling and go backwards in time, would you do anything differently with your drag racing career?
Probably would have started earlier. If I could change anything, and maybe, I guess I would probably, you learn a lot, right? In hindsight, I probably would have maybe done things a little bit differently when I started out in the alcohol funny car, I think.
Now, if you and your family ever have time to go on a vacation, what's your favorite vacation getaway?
Well, as a family, we really enjoy going to Disneyland. We've been to Disneyland a couple times. We haven't taken our kids to Disney World yet, but I think that's on our agenda to shoot for that. I think it's a great destination. Everybody loves this in our family, so other than that, we would definitely look at doing a trip to Europe sometime.
Now, if someone were to come up to you, Greg, and give you $800 million, and they wanted you to build a brand new drag race track with that $800 million, where would you consider building a new track at, and what kind of features would you want to put into that new track?
Ooh. Never really thought about that, but I think it would be definitely somewhere where I could run it year round. And new features, I think, I can't think of anything I would, if I looked at the track at Vegas or I think the new feature that I would do is I would make the track, maybe it would be somewhere in Texas where I got lots of room, and I would make it long enough for the top fuel cars could run quarter mile again and have enough shutdown and not worry about, the safety issue of not being able to shut them down. That would be something that I would want to do.
So what's your opinion on the 4-wide tracks?
I don't mind it, but I'm more traditional. I think it's an okay thing, but I wouldn't want every track to switch to 4-wide.
Yeah, it's cool.
But, I don't mind it so much when it's, they have it, one event a year at Charlotte and one event a year in Vegas. I don't mind it so much. I think that's about as much as I kind of would like to see it. I don't think I'd want to see it at any more tracks, but I'm also, if that is the way the sport would go, I'm not one to say you can't do that. Wouldn't want to hold it back, but my preference is 2 cars.
Yeah,
2 lanes, 2 cars, and old-fashioned drag racing.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to see like 4 nitro cars at one time, but at the same time, it kind of gyps the fans. The races end faster. You don't even get as long a day at the track.
Yeah, and it takes away from the, because I've only seen it at Vegas, and to me it took away from the race, because you're trying to look at too much at once, and it's over fast, and you're like, what just happened?
Yeah.
That's what I didn't like about it. You can't, and that's sort of one of the selling features too of drag racing is, it might be short, but there's a good amount of time from the car doing the burnout, backing up, and there's 2 cars on the track. For sponsors, you get a lot of one-on-one time with the fan.
Yeah.
Whereas you add cars there, then you're diluting it.
Yep. So what do you think about that deal with Steve Torrance and Cameron?
I quite enjoyed it, actually. Quite enjoyed watching that, and I think, obviously, I don't think at all that Cameron Ferre was out of place. He's trying to win. I have no problem, and Steve Torrance, I think, was just maybe overexcited and got upset, which, is understandable. You get out of one of those cars, your adrenaline is pinned, right? So, I can understand how it happened, but, he said he was sorry, and I think that's between those guys. If they want to keep their thing going, that's fine too. I think it's fun to watch for me. Yeah. But I think Steve Torrance could have took it in a different way, saying that thinking like they're a good team, and that's a good car. They got everything going, and anybody that races them is going to have that in their head, so they're going to think of trying to get any advantage they can, and they should almost be used to it by now. They've been running good for a while, so I think just a bit of a perspective change, maybe that he wasn't out to get him; he's just trying to win, and I think that's pretty much what happened there, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. All right, now this next question will be fun and easy question. What is your favorite food you like to eat?
Yeah. I would have to say I'm a steak person. I think that's probably, if I had to narrow it down and could only eat one thing, it would have to be steak.
Now, would you have potatoes with this steak?
Well, I do enjoy potatoes, but when I'm getting close to a race, I definitely cut potatoes out and go with steak and Caesar salad is probably my go-to meal.
Now, when you're at the track, do you eat light or do you eat regularly when you're racing on a race day?
Eat pretty light, just mainly because of the adrenaline. I think I sometimes forget to eat and have to remind myself. Or actually, my wife Stacy reminds me and forces me to eat sometimes. But yeah, fairly light. But I don't know if it's by choice.
So, what's your favorite beverage to drink?
I kind of switch it up a little bit. I know I do drink a lot of Diet Coke. That's probably my favorite, but I don't know if it's the best thing for you. So I try and cut back and try and drink more water. But if I had to say, my go-to drink would be Diet Coke.
Now, do you drink alcohol?
Yeah, definitely like to have a few beers after the race.
So, what's your favorite beer?
I would have to say my go-to beer would be Coors Light.
All right. Now, what's your favorite movie of all time?
Oh, favorite movie of all time. That's a tough one because it's kind of a moving target because of if I had to say, my favorite movie of this year would be Ford versus Ferrari. It was by far and it's definitely in my top 10 movies, I would say. And other than that, I do enjoy the Quentin Tarantino type movies like Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
And his most recent one I thought was very well done too. I quite enjoyed it. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
All right. Now, what's your favorite music?
I have a pretty broad type of music that I listen to. I listen to a lot of classic rock. I definitely like that. AC/DC, Van Halen, stuff like that. It would probably be my top favorite. But I do listen to everything. I listen to country and a little bit of the new stuff because my kids demand to listen to it in the car. So I try and have an open mind.
So, I got a message from a listener listening to the interview right now. They asked, "What are your thoughts on The Godfather?"
The Godfather movie?
Yeah.
One of the greatest movies ever made. Yeah, that's definitely in my top 10. I think I like Godfather 2. I think I would put Godfather 2 almost as good or better than Godfather 1.
Then I got another question. It says, "What are his favorite colors?"
I would have to go with green and black. I think they look great together, and we had the exact Dare colors were green and black, and we did Kenny Gilmore's Dragster in that color, and the Sino was kind of green and black too, so it kind of worked out really well, and both those paint schemes I thought looked amazing and loved them, so that's kind of the go-to color. That was my dad's color was green, and kind of grew on me, and it stuck with me as well.
Well, the questions are rolling in from this listener now. What's his thoughts on the characters on The Godfather, and which character would he be?
Which character would I be on The Godfather? That's a good one. That's a tough one, actually. Probably, yeah, I don't know. I have to think about that one for a bit. I'd say when I was younger, maybe I was a little bit like Sonny. When I played hockey, I was probably like Sonny. But more like Michael now, maybe.
Another question. Is he a boxer or a brief guy?
Definitely.
What's been your most embarrassing moment on the track?
Most embarrassing moment on the track. Let me think. Uh, well, yeah, I was. I guess I wasn't really embarrassed, but after I was told, I was a bit like, oh, that's kind of the. When I had the fire, I was in the dragster, and I was. There was a fire, and obviously it's an alcohol fire, so you can't really see it, or you can see some of it. But my hand was basically on fire, so I was trying to stop the car, and at the same time, it was on my brake. It was on the brake handle hand, my right hand, and I would pull on the brake and then let it go, and then I was trying to put the fire off my hand, so I was kind of patting it on my, like waving it around, and then I'd pull on the brake, and then I was waving it around, and they actually put me on, they had me on the Jumbotron doing that, and they were like, you know, saying that I was, they were saying I was trying to put the fire out, you know, the engine fire out or whatever with my hand, and it's like, no, I was just trying to get the fire off my hand. It was kind of a bit embarrassing, I guess, but.
Now the listener said, what are his favorite holidays?
Well, obviously, drag racing is my all-time favorite, and then I like playing hockey. You know, I like going. You know, I like working out as a hobby too. But
not hobbies. What's your favorite holidays?
Oh, holidays. Favorite holiday is I'd have to say is Labor Day because you know, obviously Christmas is up there because it's a great time to, you know, decompress and be with family and everything. But Labor Day is up there because my birthday falls usually on Labor Day weekend, and it's a great race weekend. There's lots going on. It's just a great weekend always, and that's the weekend that Indy's at. And I've never been to Indy, so hopefully one of these years, if I had to put a goal for this year, it would be, you know, going to Indy this year.
All right. So what's been the fondest memory of your drag racing career?
The fondest memory, I would have to say, if I had to pick, the brightest spot was probably the win in Woodburn, driving Annie's car, because you know, it was we didn't qualify number one, and you know, it was like, oh, there was a lot of really good cars there, and to be able to beat everybody that was there, and in the final it was against Doug Gordon, who, I mean, they showed how good that team is. They stepped up, and we ran identical ETs, but I had slightly better on the tree and got the win, and that was an amazing time.
Awesome. Well, Greg, I want to thank you very much for taking time to do the interview today.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Had a good time.
You have any final words?
No, just hope to be out on the track more this year than last year, and hope to see everybody again.
Awesome.
Or 2020.
Yeah, then the listener that kept asking questions said, everyone vote Trump 2020 and save America.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right,
I think he's doing good for the country.
Yes. You have a great day, Greg.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
nice
again.
Talking to you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.